Hi, I'm David Moore. I'm Director of Business Development with Globecomm's Media and Entertainment vertical. And I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon to talk about what's beyond OTT, which is a pretty interesting concept when you think about that. I know we've talked a lot about over the top. You've heard a lot about that this morning. And so this session in this hour, we wanted to take it sort of a step beyond and take a different approach to that overused vernacular term, OTT, to talk about social media integration, analytics, and just what do we have here? What is the business model that is either coming around or will come around that will drive content directly from the owner to the audience or to the user? And with me this afternoon, I have two fine gentlemen, Santi Pierini from TodoCast and Chris Wagner from NeuLion. Among the three of us, we're going to have a fairly, I think, lively interaction and discussion about the business models that, in essence, are disruptive by nature to the conventional business models that we have out there in terms of getting content that you want to watch, when you want to watch, and where you want to watch. It's not a technical discussion per se. It's going to be more about the business and the drivers behind that. And I think maybe we can forecast a little bit about what we're going to see, in the future as this evolves. So, Santi, why don't you just give us a little bit of an overview of your role in TodoCast?
Sure. Thanks, Dave. My name's Santi Pierini. I'm Vice President of Product Strategy with TodoCast. TodoCast is a bit unique. We are a media services company. We do focus on live and on-demand internet broadcasting, but we tend to take OTT from the opposite perspective. We don't see it necessarily, at least from our perspective, as an evolution of linear TV or traditional content providers, but more as an opportunity for greenfield content owners, brands, and others to get direct to consumer, direct to audience with their video content. And let me explain what that means just a little bit. We focus on three shareholders in the ecosystem of live and on-demand video, one being the audience. It has to be a rich, robust experience. It can't be a security cam level of video broadcast. High quality, high definition, with a lot of interactivity, because what differentiates and sets apart live video from video content is you really can participate in a community. If you're a passionate fan of a sport, passionate fan of a concert or an artist, you want to be able to interact with other people that are like-minded. We also focus on the content owners. So these are people that have rich content that they want to get out. It could be the U.S. Polo Association, where they have a rabid audience base that really cares about polo, but maybe don't have enough advertising eyeballs to support a traditional advertising model. So we have to be able to support advertising models that make sense to them. Maybe it's subscription-based, maybe it's pay-per-view, maybe it's a hybrid of multiple models. And then lastly, the brands and the agencies that support those brands. Everybody's trying to circumvent the middleman, and brands now want to be able to go direct to the consumer and be able to use that audience face time to understand more and more and more about the people that want to consume their products. You see Red Bull creating their own channel, Coca-Cola wanting to generate content that goes direct to consumer and be able to monetize directly and not have to go through all of these different channels and intermediaries. To do that, I think David's points with social media and the interactivity that's supported there, and a true business model, because when you start with greenfield content, you have to be able to generate enough interest and enough varied business models to sustain your business in general. So again, that could be pay-per-view. That could be couponing and long-tail effect of advertising, where we'll have an event where they'll participate online, and then an advertiser gets to see the habits, buying habits, click habits of that viewer, and be able to present coupons long after that event to bring them back into either the store or buy products online and so on. So probably talk a lot about examples of people using this technology as we go through the questions, but that in a nutshell is TodoCast in our model.
Hi, Chris Wagner from NeuLion. I co-founded NeuLion. We're right down the road by the lovely Bethpage Golf Course, where that would be a nice place to have a meeting, wouldn't it? Yeah, our business kind of is in three main silos. We focus on pro sports, college sports, and have an entertainment business around movies, on-demand content, and linear TV channels. Just to give you a sense of the amount of video that this year we're trending to stream about 100 petabytes of streamed video. We get hired by content owners to distribute their content, and then we give them a monetization strategy, which we'll talk about, which includes, ads, subscription, pay-per-view. But just give you a sense of because I'm not sure if everybody in here understands the size of a petabyte, right? So you got to kind of think of it back in a gigabyte standpoint. So 1 gigabyte basically is 7 minutes of HD video. That's a gigabyte. 4.7 gigabytes is about the size of a DVD movie. All right, 1 petabyte is 1,000,000 gigabytes. So we're streaming 100 petabytes this year, and of that 100 petabytes, probably about between 30 to 40% or 30 to 40 petabytes is actually going out to mobile. So mobile would be tablets and also smartphones. And obviously you have to make money for that much content to go there. So from a consumer perspective, that's definitely where the market's going. I brought an IDC report that came out this morning. By 2016, there'll be 400, this is worldwide, there'll be 400 million consumers using a smartphone on at least a monthly basis to view TV shows and movies. 400 million. And that's a CAGR growth of 36% year over year. That's by 2016. By 2016, there'll be 200 million consumers using tablets. And on tablets, at least a monthly basis, they'll be viewing TV shows and movies, and that's a CAGR growth of 52%. So the tablet market is growing faster than the smartphone market, but if you look at the size of those numbers, 400 million to 200 million, content owners are really moving to those devices as a way to make money because the audience prefers to use them. So you see PC sales and laptop sales coming down. You see these smartphone devices as a preference for video, and then it becomes a place to make money, which I think we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that ties right back into the social media side of that. Thank you very much, Chris. This session, we'd like it to be a little bit more interactive, hence like what you would get on your smartphone or your tablet. I have a question for everybody in here. Who has watched a Netflix movie or a movie online in the last 30 days? Just show of hands. Okay. Who has watched a movie or a piece of content from your favorite site, whatever that is? Right. Who has used a credit card outside of Netflix to pay for some kind of content or answered a questionnaire to get access to content? Anybody? My wife. Yeah, your wife. Okay.
My fourth kid.
Okay. I think the point is that we're all involved in this, and one of the things that we'll hear about this in this shift between the direct connection between the content owner and the person who's consuming it is the analytics. And I think you probably heard it. You hear content is king, cash is king, but the other thing I'm hearing too is, okay, in the cash is king part, that analytics are the new currency. And so I want to ask, maybe from your perspective about that, what does that mean and how does that play out relative to direct-to-consumer content distribution in a changing business model?
I mean, I could give some examples. NFL has a very big brand, right? They're very, the quality of the video anywhere in the world becomes a real big deal to them. And when you deliver live content, you also have to take into account there are other participants in the delivery of that. So there's all these CDN networks that you have to partner with. So around analytics, what we created was, if you think of a Google map, right, and how traffic moves, and if you show traffic on your iPhone, you can actually see, which roads are congested, things go red, they go green. So they're using analytics as a way of ensuring that the performance by device is at a quality level that they feel is necessary for people to pay money for a live NFL service, which internationally would cost somewhere between $150 to $250 US. So they want a consumer to pay, they want a consumer to renew, and their renewal rates are very high. And the experience for things that you pay for, you have far less tolerance as a consumer than things you get for free. If you get it for free, you X out, you don't come back. If you put in your credit card and you paid for it, you expect it to be great quality, you expect it not to buffer, you expect to have an experience that's a good one, so at least you tell your friends about it and you renew. So analytics becomes a key part of that because you have to track and you have to look at the quality of the delivery by device, regardless of where you are in the world, and then take exceptions to that quality, like low band rates, buffer rates, things that would impact the quality of that experience, and then move traffic around so you maintain those qualities. That's how they would view analytics.
And we take a little bit different approach. We look at it more from the perspective of the consumer and of the brand. So for example, how long did someone watch a particular event? What ads did they click through on? What type of events did they keep coming back for? Most of our events do have registration. Most of them do have self-identification of that audience. So we know a lot about the person watching. If they want to join a community, be part of that polo community, part of that online audience, they want to give information like that because they want to be talked to much more as an individual. So this whole direct-to-consumer model is really about the analytics, and we agree that it is about creating a currency around that you can go back to a brand, 85 minutes of viewing time. This person identified themselves in this demographic with these habits. They've watched other events online of similar that you might be able to advertise to. And the better the data collection gets, the better the analytical capabilities get, the more relevant the content becomes, and the better the business model. You can monetize much more around that demographic data.
Yeah, how do you use that to grow? I mean, in this whole direct to consumer, you start to, how is that being used to grow the audience? And I'm leading up to asking a question about tipping points and all that. But how's that being used today, and how do you see that being used in the future?
All that information that we're talking about, you use from a marketing standpoint to cross-sell.
Right.
Yeah.
So take a different example like a college. The official athletic department of Hofstra, small school, or LSU, big school. We have this concept of a single view of a fan, right? So if a fan registers to subscribe to, live games, and if they also bought something online in the store, and if they're also a season ticket holder in the stadium, that information collected creates kind of a single view of a fan, so you can upsell and cross-sell different services and different packages to that fan, right? So all these different groups have multiple ways of productizing, and it's just like you would as a retailer, right? The more product SKUs you have, the more opportunity you have to get share of wallet. And the same thing's happening around content. Content is being taken in different directions. The NFL, for instance, has a subscription service just for the fantasy league called Rewind. So if you play NFL fantasy and you really want to watch your players and on Monday morning kind of see what happened around the league and use shared video through social media to create bait to trade your quarterback or get a different player on your team, they sell that service as a subscription, really as an add-on to a free service, which is fantasy. And then between the two of them, their engagement times go way up because people are staying online longer, which means now we're putting more ads in front of them. So the whole system kind of revolves around content and how you slice and dice it and create different offers.
Do you have any metrics on growth potential or revenue growth in this?
I can tell you that most of the big digital networks, both college or pro, and even if you look at HBO Go, which isn't a customer of ours, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're growing year over year twofold, right? Because that's where the consumer base is going. So the ROI is there. The cost of delivery is coming down. The cost of creating content is coming down. The ability to get on any device with high quality is easier than it used to be. And now it's just a matter of figuring out your marketing and your content strategy, because the distribution strategy from a technology standpoint is pretty much been solved.
Well, in that case, you're almost saying that if the content owner can do that and can leverage social media and that kind of engagement, then why do we need somebody in the middle? Maybe Mr. Dolan is correct, is all I need is a lot of bandwidth at home.
But I would be curious, just in the audience, how many in the audience are from a media company, content company? Okay. How about from a cable satellite operator? And how many are in the technology business? Okay, got it.
To your question too on the growth, again, we're coming at it from a little bit different perspective. A lot of time our audiences are very niche to start with, and so how do you take a passionate fan base? I mean, we'll use Polo as an example. They've got a mailing list, so you need a multimodal marketing campaign in order to grow that from the ground up. So it may start with a mailing list, to get out to your user base. Little things like when that person registers to watch this polo match, a registration pops up and says, hey, it's a lot more fun to watch these things with your friends. Would you like to share? So we share immediately to Twitter and to Facebook, growing that network. Trying to use social media before an event to promote, during event to create engagement, and after event to promote products and services that were done during the event. So it really becomes use every tool at your disposal to grow audiences. And we do see exponential growth from event to event, but it is starting with a smaller base. So again, from the outside in.
That's actually a cool topic. Barclays Center, if you haven't been at Barclays Center, great building. So all these facility guys are now trying to figure out ways of creating new revenue streams. So you have this need to create a kind of an in-venue experience that, they're rolling out lots of digital services for that, being able to order things from your seat, where it's the shortest line, from the bathroom, what's the best way to get out of here from a parking standpoint. All that stuff's happening. But Barclays Center, actually, if you go check them out, we just did this thing with them called a digital ticket. So they'll have artists, promoters, and athletic directors come into that building to do an event there, right? So one of the things Barclays Center is now going to offer is this concept called a digital ticket, which means if you're in some market that they're not going to be in, so if it's an artist, let's say they have a 10-city tour that they're going to be, singing at, right? So being able to create blackout markets, in markets and out of markets, and then allow fans to come in so you can look at their IP address, which they will. So you go to Barclays Center IP address, and we know, oh, you're from St. Louis, right? And that may meet a business reason for a digital ticket. We did it with the Rolling Stones at the Prudential Center and sold a $55 digital ticket. And it was only for out of market, and they were only going to be at the Prudential Center. So if you're in, I think we used a 50-mile radius, you couldn't buy the digital ticket, but if you're outside that, anywhere in the world, you could buy a $55 ticket. And imagine Mick Jagger in HD on an iPad. Okay. That's scary, man. I mean, that makes all of us in here look like we're like 30.
Might want to pay. I want to pay extra for the SD.
But I'm telling you, it's. But that's where the space is going, because who could have thought at a facility you could sell a physical ticket and a digital ticket and make that same offer to a promoter that's in your building.
Right. Well, in case in point, being a musician, Santi's a musician, we love music and that kind of stuff. Then there was a Todd Rundgren concert up here in Huntington. Yeah.
Todd
Thanks.
Head.
Todd Head. Love Todd. But the fact is, I live in Charlotte. But I was able to actually watch that in high definition over the top. I had to pay for it, but you know what? $19.95 was a lot less than a plane ticket to come up and a rental car and the time to take to get out, up into Huntington. The point is that I look for other fans too. I mean, I would love to watch Dave Matthews. I would buy the tour ticket concert and just sit there and take all of them because I'm a big fan of the band and other people too. That's my personal preference. Okay, that's you may be into flying, aviation, boating, golf, whatever the case. Right. The point is that I think that we're getting to here is that if you, whatever you engage in, if you can find mechanisms to grasp the content from that and watch that and engage with that, that's going to be much more magnetic and attractive than any kind of program guide you're going to ever find on a set-top box.
Right. I think that really is the exciting part of this. Not that I can watch what I've always watched in a different venue, different device,
right.
But that I can see things I've never been able to get before because of all this technology coming together and creating business models that didn't exist before. So being able to create concert events, sporting events you might not have been able to ever get because they couldn't be supported by traditional advertising models.
That's right. Right.
The real challenge is finding the audience.
It's finding the audience.
Because the marketing is not to be underestimated, right? Because you could have, some really cool stuff that nobody knows about.
Tree falling in the forest.
So that's really right. So,
Todd's a good example.
Todd's a great example. Yeah.
He's got a loyal following, and those people love to self-identify. They love to talk. They love to go, but they're not maybe necessarily the most social media savvy. So he does use digital marketing strategies to reach these people, but now he's growing to a younger audience base using social media like Twitter and Facebook. So you have to use everything at your disposal really to grow the audience and promote before, during, and after. It's not just a one-time shot and hope people show up.
Yeah. So the question then sort of becomes, knowing that discovery and getting people there, it becomes a business and marketing problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we take that, it's a business and marketing problem that's going to define the tipping point to when the content owner really takes control and the middle guys have less control.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Well, I think there is a tug of war there between the content creator or content owner and the distributor.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some natural things that are pluses and minuses, right? Distributor, here on Long Island, Cablevision's in 3 million homes. So they have a relationship with me. I pay them every month. They know who I am. They have my credit card. I get my phone, my data, and my TV. Cablevision's putting in 80,000 hotspots on Long Island. 80,000. So they're pretty much anywhere I go on Long Island, I can connect in. I was in the parking lot out here, Brian, and I got Optimum online. Bam. So I don't have to pay extra for that. It's in my plan. So and then I was talking this morning about high school sports and being able to deliver that. And you see, imagine sitting up in the stands and your son or daughter scores a goal and you can do rewinds on this. That works now. So, and that's because I have a relationship with Cablevision, and if I go to Verizon, I don't get any of that. I don't get the hotspots, I don't get the high school sports, right? So there is there is a role for the operator, but then you flip it on the other side, right? Big Ten Network has a product called BTN To Go. If you're a Big Ten fan, it's great. You can download it for free, runs on all kinds of devices. The experience is for a Big Ten fan, right? So you can go in and sort sports, you can sort schools, you can say my favorite school is Michigan. You can create all the social curated tweets just around Big Ten sports. But it took them 2 years to sign a deal with Comcast because Comcast wanted just the game. They didn't want any of this stuff around it. All they wanted to do was slot it in with everything else. And Big Ten Network held off, and soon, this year they finally signed their Comcast deal, so they're like in 40 million homes. But it took a while because there was that tension between who controls the experience, and Comcast wanted to control it, and BTN says, hey, you have 1,000 channels, I'm just focused on Big Ten fans, and that went on for a while.
Chris brings up a good point, this concept of companion applications and companion content to go with the video. We see that happening across the board. So it's because we focus on high value content, a lot of times people are watching on their big screen TV, Roku device, Xbox, and so on, but they're using social media on a handheld device and creating that companion interaction. That's really what live spawns, is that need to want to be with like people with like interests in a virtual way.
Right.
And I think that helps growth and feed the industry as well.
WWE, I had have you ever been into a WWE event?
Live.
I went to one because they're a customer. I hadn't been to one since like high school. So the way that thing works now, so if you're a fan, either watching on TV or in the arena, you actually vote on who's going to be the last fight. So they have like 6 or 7 guys just waiting back there, waiting to see how the fans and who they want to match up and who's going to do that final round.
Yeah.
And it all comes from social media.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Big evolution from the sausage race at baseball games.
Yeah,
where you guys,
It's come a long way.
Right. You mentioned something about the quality of experience to the customer, and there's a lot of disruption today. I think it's been mentioned a couple times in here about the CBS Time Warner battle, and I'm a Time Warner customer in North Carolina. I don't know what that means, and maybe it'll be black when I get home. But I do know this, is that a growing number of people, Viacom had a war with MTV. You get this disruption that happens, and the net result is, first of all, it makes the customer base aware that there's an issue that's going on. The second thing is they hear is that my bill's going to go up as a result of whatever that is. And so the consumer ends up, the perception, and I just ad hoc talk to neighbors and all this kind of stuff. I mean, they know that I work in this industry. They have no clue, nor do I know how to explain what it is I do. I just say, go home and turn on your TV, and I'm involved in that stuff somewhere along the line. But the growing sentiment is that we don't understand all the broadband stuff, and I think this morning the comment is that it has to be easy. Right. It has to be very easy to engage, easy, from a non-technical standpoint. And I think the iPads and tablets and all that stuff are making that easier, but it's driving people to look for alternatives. And it's a pretty interesting topic, and I think that would be an opportunity from your standpoint and what the services you're providing from the content providers to figure out how to connect. Do you see growth in that area?
Oh, yeah, huge.
Driving?
UFC has, they look at the world as their fan base. They think they can connect and market to a UFC fan more effectively than an operator can. They know what they like to watch. They know how to connect social media. They know how to display the fight card, all those kind of things. And, what used to take a lot of time from a business development standpoint to go around the world and strike all these deals, for distribution, just there,
Yeah.
right? Because now you can deliver it directly to a fan coming in from Asia, Europe, South America, the United States, is hitting a website. The website knows where you came from. It's changing languages. It's reflecting offers to your local area. It's taking local currency. And what became a challenging distribution model for somebody who thinks globally, because fighting is kind of everybody fights. You don't have to really get taught what it means. When the guy gets punched, he's probably losing. So it's not like American football, where you have to, or hockey, right, which is complicated to figure out. So, if Dana White talks about fighting as a global, everybody gets it. So now it's a lot easier from a digital standpoint to connect to these fans. So you don't have mountains of lawyers and agreements and distribution agreements to try to figure out how to get to that local area.
Well, that's why when you cater to the content owners, they already own the content. They already have the rights to distribute, and a lot of these streaming rights have never been, granted outside of there. 53 countries tuned in to watch Todd Rundgren at the same time. You couldn't do that if it was a Cablevision only or carried just on linear.
That's very true. Well, if that's the case, why aren't more content providers pursuing this
Digitally?
digitally?
No, I think they are. I think it's a good point about rights.
Yeah.
Because these agreements are 3, 5 years or longer.
Expiring,
I mean, take something like the NBA. If you're a Knicks fan and you're going down to MSG to watch the game and you're late, there is nothing you can connect to that's going to give you that live Knicks game. But if I'm on the train going down to MSG and I want to watch the Lakers, I can watch them live.
Yeah.
But I can't watch the Knicks, and I live in New York. It's a rights issue that's trying to be sorted out between MSG and Time Warner and Cablevision. Has nothing to do with technology.
Which is partly why these content owners want to disintermediate the delivery system, so they go direct to the consumer.
Yeah. So direct to consumer is something that we should expect to see grow.
I think you see more of that.
Absolutely. And go ahead, sorry.
No. Question.
Yes, I just wanted to know, you mentioned the Todd Rundgren concert, 53 countries, and it's going direct. How did they go direct? I'm missing something. How did the content provider, being Todd Rundgren, go direct to 53 countries?
Maybe you ought to give them a little break, a little block flow.
Breakdown of how
you did that.
One thing that we do with TodoCast is we look at that broadcast problem from Todd's microphone to the person watching that, either on any of their devices. So origination is the first portion. If it's a good connectivity source, like he was playing at this theater in Huntington, they had good internet service. But we also do a lot of satellite origination, first mile over satellite, because we find when we go to concerts especially, people talk about using 4G networks or backpacks that have multiple bonded cards. But when you get to that concert and test, everything's fine, you have plenty of bandwidth, 40,000 people show up, there's no bandwidth, it goes down. It's invariable. So satellite is a great first mile origination, part of what we do, part of our solution. Todd's used it for his more remote sites many times. Huntington didn't need it that good. So now what's next? Well, we have to feed everything into our cloud to be able to handle the gateway to get in. We have a payment gateway for pay-per-view. We have time-based so that people can watch for a certain period of time. Their ticket can expire. That's really relevant, especially in continuing education and other forms. Sometimes it's advertising-based. So if there's a particular advertiser that wants to sponsor the first 30 minutes of Todd's concert and then fold into a pay-per-view, those types of models. So that piece is, our audience management, and that allows us to collect content, collect data, collect analytics, and create that, rich demographic data. Lastly, we're using typical CDN for distribution. So there is one more piece. A lot of times we're doing live transcoding as well. So we have to take that one feed from the Huntington Theater and create multiple output feeds to all these different device types, HLS for iPhone and iPad and so on. And then lastly, we're pushing to Akamai for distribution. So it's worldwide, real time, and it does add a little latency, but it's well worth it because now there is no scaling issue in terms. And we are CDN agnostic. If we have a lot of corporate clients that have existing relationships with Limelight and other providers, we do go to those CDNs. So ultimately, the distribution is a commodity. It's coming off the CDN. But we have to take care of every link in that distribution chain in order to make that happen so that you can watch Todd live and on demand. So features like adaptive bitrate that we've been talking about are critical because you want to get the best possible feed for your connection, but you also want to have things like live DVR in the cloud so we can rewind on our handheld, rewind on our. Make sense? I think I think David mentioned too that he wanted to watch this live and then forgot the concert was on and went back and watched the video archive.
Actually, my wife had some pre-planned events that I didn't know about when I bought this, and so I was wanting to watch it live anyway. I watched the VOD 2 days later.
Just on that, just a thought in my head. Is there any problems with the syncing of the audio and the video? So if he's singing, is he ahead or behind, or?
You have to account for that at every step. So you got to make sure, say you're going in digitally, with embedded video, SD, HD, SDI, usually not a problem. If you've got an analog video stream and a digital, analog audio, digital video, you have to sync that up. But that happens, we encode at the edge. So we're not pushing the signal somewhere else, encoding remotely and then pushing out. So we can get it right at the production end. We're using technology from NewTek a lot of times, the TriCaster. And so we're able to manage that. Once you get it to Akamai, if you're in sync, it'll push it out however it received it. So we're critical that, that the production's a big part. We've had to have a lot of domain expertise on production so that we knew how to build technology that was compatible and would allow for those kind of sync issues to fade away. So.
Great questions, thanks.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So with all the disruption in the marketplace and OTTs flying around in that, and really understanding, as I get it from you, that we're dealing with a business problem and a marketing problem. We have rights issues and we have things that the content owners are just coming around. As this scales and evolves in that, the real question is, where's the tipping point to where all of us are really I don't want to see being mass marketed to. The postal mail inserts are going down, but the emails are going up with all the things we like. And we're relating more to the content. And we can go to CBS Direct someday. We can go to different things. We can pick the shows we want. Right. Where is that?
I think my demographic may not have gotten to a tipping point yet, but my 4 kids have already tipped.
Exactly.
I mean, I have 2 kids that live in Manhattan, and they don't have a pay TV relationship. They have a data relationship, and they watch a lot of Apple TV, they watch a lot of Netflix, they watch a lot of Hulu, they watch a lot of online. They're not big into sports, so appointment-based television eventually goes away, if not already. Everything is on demand pretty much. Sports is the only perishable item that you're going to care about not watching an archive because you don't want to know the score, or you've read it somewhere, or there's a tweet somewhere that told you the end result, so you want to watch it so that you're not seeing that tweet afterwards, even though you want to try to watch the archive. So ESPN runs on everything, right? We just launched a new network with Participant Media. They did Friday Night Lights and Lincoln. A brand new channel called Pivot TV, which is aimed at millennials, 18 to 35-year-olds. You get it for free if you have an internet service level relationship with one of their distributors, so that's internet only. So they're actually going after people who didn't cut the cord. They never had the cord.
Yeah, the cord nevers.
Right. Yeah, that are interested in watching Pivot TV, very interactive. It's a linear channel plus a whole bunch of VOD. And it has social media and interaction and all the things we've been talking about to interact with, right? And it's available right out of the Apple or Android store for free.
Our perspective is slightly different on that because there is no tipping point when you're talking about greenfield originated content.
That's true.
There is no competitive linear TV equivalent to a lot of what we do. So we are going to meet in the middle once that tipping point has happened, and it'll just be content I want to see, when I want to see it, how I want to see it, how I want to pay for it. So it's interesting to even think about it in more traditional terms.
One of the things that the aggregators or the networks have a very good capability of, which if they did go away tomorrow, there would be a void or a problem with, is that they're a very big barker for whatever shows or content comes up. That's how you learn about content today, is typically watching another show and then they promote the next show and what's going on. And what you say about the heavy lifting of marketing and getting people to come and watch broadband TV, even if it's not scheduled, just on demand, go and look at it and do that is a big problem. And it seems, I'm still waiting for that recommended source or what would replace the TV guide or some level of discovery where some company jumps into it and they're the master of allowing that barker to happen, because I don't know that you can have a tipping point until you have a mechanism to allow people to know that there's 10,000.
Yeah, Z-Box is trying to do some of that. Right.
Yeah, I may be able to answer that. I'm a content provider, Jim Bennett, Ground Media, Hallmark Channels. I think we play with NeuLion and some other guys. I know people that work for you because I've been with TodoCast, following you guys for a while. Cool idea. We have a new way we're going to keep track of our shows. It's called IDER. It's a whole group supported by cable labs and similar people. It'll be a publicly open database on the internet. It'll also be privately. We'll also have a private part of that. We content providers, and that could be your Big Ten or even your high school, are going to have to buy in if they want this extended data. That will be all of our metadata. So you'll be able to search, just like with Google. You'll find whatever show you want, whatever talent you want, whatever metadata we put in there, and you'll find that show any place, anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Jim, what is that called?
IDER, EIDR.
Sort of like Spider, I guess.
IDER.
Is it funded by cable?
It's by a little bit of everybody. If you look at it, it's an open organization.
Is there like a Pandora type model for video that's out there at this point, where to build these, I don't like that kind of
Personalization and
Netflix has some of that.
Recommendation engines.
yeah.
A lot of recommendation engines they're all kind of spawned out of the Amazon model. But you profile yourself, and based on your buying,
Self-identify, yeah.
right, it's going to position for you content that it thinks you're going to want to watch based on the things you've already done. You'll see more and more of that.
One of the keys will be the metadata and how well it's tagged and documented, and then the buying habits and matching the two,
Right,
viewing
so,
habits.
Yeah, metadata from the last session is increasingly important.
Very much so.
Over that. And but one of the things about the recommendation engines I just discovered, because I have a Netflix account and Hulu and all the different boxes, and actually at home it's really confusing because I have 4 things that play Netflix, and so now everybody wants to know what, and one universal remote, and so we're back to Remote City, and which Netflix player do I use, and where does the audio come from? Anyway, we solved that, but what I discovered is that multiple people are using that, and my kids watched one thing. In fact, they log in from wherever they are and watch stuff, and what happens is the recommendation engine gets very skewed because there's never anything I like. Right. It's like this thing's broken. It's
You
severely
may want to watch
broken.
Barney.
Yeah, I might want to watch Barney or something like that, or Weeds, or with my kids, But anyway, it was pretty funny.
That gets solved, though, with this parent-child relationship, right? Being able to profile your family
That's
members.
right. Yeah, I think Netflix now recognize that as a problem, and you can have 5 profiles under one account for people that share the same account.
Right, kind of the way Kindles will profile.
Exactly. Yeah. So the parent-child thing. So that'll work. But I think you're right. Is that the discovery side of that is going to be increasingly important in a fragmented world.
Yes.
Oh, the new channel from Participant.
Yes.
I did read some things about it. They're using social media for their promotion of it. How are they getting the word out?
Absolutely. I mean, they have a pretty broad Twitter following. We work with a company called Mass Relevance that's integrated into the viewing experience that they use to curate tweets and to put tweets in different channels. So there could be a curated channel for a lead actor of a show. There could be a curated channel for a TV critic. There could be a curated channel for the audience. So as a fan, you have the ability to kind of come in and out of these different channels, and you create kind of that viral effect. So their marketing is really all digital. They will market through their pay TV relationships, because you can watch Pivot TV on broadcast side, you can watch it internet only. But it's aimed specifically at that millennial group. So their marketing is very social.
And you signed up a couple of young stars, right? Like Gordon Levitt.
I wouldn't even know all the names because I demo right out of that group. But yeah, but it's a really young audience, and the shows, which I can't even think of off the top of my head. If I were to ask my 20-year-old daughter, she'd know them like that.
Thank you.
Davey, I do know something about Pivot. I loaned them a couple 100 megabits out of some connectivity I got out of there so they can stream some stuff to the New York and LA offices until they can get their bandwidth, because they just launched August 1st.
August 1st is our launch.
They're brand new. But he came up with 2 separate streams, and this ties to your licensing issues. He's playing back a stream for what we would call traditional linear TV. That goes to 50 million homes.
It's not 2 separate streams, though. It's the same video with 2 different business rules.
Exactly.
That's different than what you said. It's not 2 streams.
Because of the licenses.
Yeah, that's the ability to define exactly what business model you want. Direct to consumer, authenticated
important,
through an affiliate,
Yep.
or just advertising. But you have the flexibility of picking those. And frankly, they're different. Big Ten Network in the US is authenticated through all their operators, but if you're in London, it's a credit card transaction. It's the exact same content, same service, just a different business model depending on location.
And I think you're going to see that with all OTT content. It has to suit the market, has to suit the content type, has to suit the audience, and those things may vary drastically.
So what you're saying, especially in the side of greenfield content, that you specialize in more getting brand new content that hasn't been seen out. It almost becomes a matter of business consulting with the people about, it's not about the technology getting the content out, that's already done and solved. The question is how do they want to model their content distribution? How do they want to market to their customers? How do you handle that, being that Todd Rundgren is different than ATV motocross?
I started, when you asked what TodoCast did, I started with media services company, not online video platform and technology provider. Because we do have technology, we do have partnerships, we have all of this, but a lot of our business comes down to the domain expertise that we have from doing thousands and thousands of live events with hundreds of thousands of viewers, all the way to the production capability. So we do bring in a lot of closely coupled expertise in terms of business models. We have our own expertise. We learn and grow. We see something that works within one demographic and can translate that. And I think it's all about creating that critical mass of knowledge, because it is brand new technology coupled with brand new audiences, brand new events. And it becomes a co-learning experience that you grow and grow, and so our ecosystem gets bigger all the time.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the audience in this room, and all of us here, we're a relatively small group compared to the population of the United States. But all of us in here, how do we know to go look for cool content for our favorite interests?
Right.
That's
Do
the marketing
we know that
challenge.
it's even available?
That's the challenge.
That's the challenge.
One of the beauties of broadband too, we talked about the reach of being able to immediately not have to sign distribution deals, but one of the ways that you can market it is you can take the content and put it where the people already are. It's very expensive to try to promote, to bring people into your domain, right, your website. But if you take that same content and syndicate it to, for example, I know the U.S. Polo Association worked with Hurlingham over in Europe, which is the big polo community in Europe. So they take that same content, no extra cost, and drop it into Hurlingham, and now Hurlingham has their downline of thousands of viewers that like polo. And that's an easy way to do it, where it would have been very expensive to promote in Europe for people to go to the U.S. Polo Association's TV site.
So what you're saying now is we need to have expertise in internet marketing.
Well, no, I mean,
Strategy.
UFC, they do their fights, we built them a Facebook player. So all their preliminary fights are free on Facebook. They have a Facebook following of 10 million. So you're watching a free fight, and when it gets to the main card,
That switches.
you can pay inside that player on Facebook $45 or $55 to watch the remaining 5 fights. Or you can go directly to UFC.tv and get a different experience than just the player on Facebook. And during the free preliminary, we actually cut and clip and put Twitter cards. So you get a Twitter card with a little video attached to it, which is like a 1 minute or 30-second segment out of the fight that's going on right now. And that gets constantly syndicated out. So your Twitter audience and your Facebook audience are seeing all this stuff, right? And then they activate over with a credit card. And the activation rates are pretty high.
Fascinating. Like I said, is that we're going to have to become experts in different types of marketing and business structures to be able to, to understand. And I guess my takeaway of this is the technology is important. I'm not minimizing the technology.
It's an enabler.
But it's an enabler. But the business strategy behind that to create long-term value of content and growth is something that it's in its infancy right now. Is that a fair way to characterize it, do you think?
At least from our audience and our content provider perspective, it's very fresh. But it's growing incredibly fast rate. Yeah.
Right. So then the question is, what's the growth curve on this?
I mean, we're just at the beginning. I mean, I don't think it's over the top. It's just digital is just a different way of distributing content, just like cable was when we relied on over-the-air antennas. Remember TV was free and somebody said, hey, you have to pay for it now?
Yeah.
And he went, what? Right? Well, I mean, digital is just a better way to distribute because you can have a one-to-one relationship. Cable and satellite is a multicast, right?
Yeah.
So the whole platform has changed the way in which you can interact.
Yeah. Okay.
It's global.
Yeah.
It truly is global.
Absolutely.
It truly is instantaneously global. Yeah.
And I think it's spawning completely new business models. When old parable, but the Swiss invented quartz watch technology, but figured nobody would want that. You know, basically they thought it would be hand precision mechanical watches forever. The Japanese saw the opening and created a whole market and really dominated. We're seeing that with new content providers, new ways of doing business. I don't think the way it looks today will be anything close to what it resembles in a few years. And things that we take for granted now that weren't in place before. So.
And technology is driving that innovation. I mean, I'm an old technology guy, but you went from mainframe computers to
Client
mini
server.
computers to PCs to smartphones. So smartphones now operate at the same speeds, cost a tenth less.
Right.
And that technology innovation is opening the door for all this content.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking before we started about, we knew what the antenna was on the roof. We knew its purpose, and we knew we had an antenna rotor, and we could get different TV stations.
Yeah.
Then we went to the 300 baud modem trying to hook it up to our computer, and it was always about solving the technical problems. And today, it's really not about that at all. It's about even the apps and all that seems to be pretty stable. It's a matter of understanding where it is, what you're looking for, what you're trying to find, and it's discovery.
Discovery.
Another industry which is obviously very important. It's where the bread's buttered from is the ad and brand industry.
Right.
And this has completely changed their world altogether. I was at the IEG ad conference and sponsorship conference, and they're like, "Oh no, ESPN, we're not. If it's AT&T, they no longer have to have the gatekeeper of letting ESPN decide when AT&T will get presented in front of their viewers. AT&T is saying, we're going to go direct. We're going to have that relationship. And oh, by the way, we don't want an impression anymore or a Google Analytic. We want a name, an email address, and we want to talk to that guy.
That's how long they watch.
That change is lagging, but the demand is there now. And when those agencies, which don't move too quickly, I think was said in an earlier session, when that does change, that money will flow, I think, behind it. And two-way broadband TV, where that relationship can happen, will be a lot more important.
Great.
Well, and it spawns, merchandising is a big part of watching live as well, and technologies that let you watch a video, have someone recommend a product or service, be it a blender or a television, you can click on that live link in the video and be able to purchase that directly within the app.
Right.
Advertisers love that kind of model. And
Yeah, and it sort of falls along the lines of the recommendation engine for content and discovery. I actually don't mind watching ads, but I want an ad about something that I'm interested in.
Right,
And
or that's relevant to
usually
the content.
99% of the time it's not, or it's relevant to the content or something like that. And if you can get that level of information to understand my preferences and be able to feed me with things, that's valuable to me, and it's very valuable to the advertiser because the chances of a purchase are much higher.
Well, we'll give you a good example. We're working on a project right now with John Taffer of Bar Rescue, and he's got a fantastic show on Spike that really does a lot to promote how to make your bar more profitable. He also does a lot of B2B content where he does seminars and wants that content available for people to show their bar and show their customers. Well, when he recommends a product, it has a lot of weight behind it, so he wants to be able to buy that product directly within his live or on-demand broadcast in a way, and so it's all relevant content, be it a blender, be it a new seating way of expanding the flow through your bar with seating and so on. So much more relevant content, much more relevant advertising.
Okay. Good. I think we're just about out of time. So I want to turn it back to the audience, to everybody in here. Any questions, thoughts, paranoia? Yes. Yes, sir.
Or satellite marketing research. So broadcasters and content providers, do they see OTT and social media more as a complementary medium, or is it a longer-term strategy that this will eventually supplant traditional broadcasting?
No, they see it definitely complementary.
Just about.
Either as a companion,
Yeah.
or like NASCAR, for instance, is building all these virtualizations of the track. So the broadcast rights are held by either ESPN or Fox to watch the live race on TV, but they'll have a companion app, which is a virtual rendition with 1 second latency that is all graphical. So yeah, everybody has TV everywhere, right? It's just a matter of what your rights are and whether you can take it outside of your house or not.
So do you see traditional broadcast, over the air surviving in the long term?
Well, look at Aereo. I mean, Aereo is helping, do some things there. But, I mean, there are 15 million homes that still get over-the-air television.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to that tipping point that David talked about. So right now, the NASCAR live race on NBC is primary, with the mobile being an adjunct or a companion app. Once that becomes either the primary place you're watching it, the over the top as the primary, then I think the question and the answer might change.
Yeah, it's interesting because just recently in the last stats I saw that cable subscriptions have declined slightly, and which is sort of the first time in history.
Ever, yeah.
Satellite's still going up a little bit. You don't know if one's trading for the other right there, but if nothing else, it's flattened out, and the growing number of people that have removed cable as a provider are also aware that they have a digital TV, and it's a big display, and you can sometimes stick a paper clip in the F connector or get a small antenna, or depending on where you are, that there are alternatives there. And I think that as we talk about content, direct-to-consumer relationships there, that the broadcast still has a valuable place in there in terms of being able to get immediate access to local content or something that's online. Although my wife doesn't watch anything in real time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, I've been watching it with my wife, because she watches a lot of off-the-air stuff in China. And what we're also seeing is the broadcast being the supplanting to Netflix. Now, some will have a Netflix subscription and they'll have an antenna.
Yeah.
So the antenna gives them their local content, and Netflix gives them their on-demand. And I think we're going to see that whole layout of satellite versus cable versus this kind of shuffling around.
Yeah, and in the case with, if you missed the show, in the real-time broadcast, a lot of them, you can go to the site, you can go to abc.com and watch what you missed. So, and yeah, there's some ads in there, but still, you can get access to the content. It's not like it's gone forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.